1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Levels 1, 2. Whoa. Check, check. Why are we coming through this? Shouldn't be coming through the speaker. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Are you guys getting levels on that? Yep. Michaela, are you?
No, not yet.
I'm
just not reading my SD card.
Any late arrivals? Get it?
Somewhere I put down the flash.
Are you good, Sarah?
I just asked. Let's see.
Title.
They gave me a thumbs up, so.
Pretty slick.
Okay, is everyone okay? Michaela, are you rolling?
Yeah.
Okay. I think we're good.
Okay. Good morning. Thank you for coming today. I'm Colonel John Bolduck with the Nebraska State Patrol. I'm thankful to report that the suspect involved in last night's officer-involved shooting in Omaha is in custody and that all individuals are safe. I'll get into the details that we can share at this time, but first I'd like to thank the public who helped share the information that we put out last night regarding the suspect. Thanks to hundreds of posts on social media and coverage from our media partners late last night, we were able to share the information about the suspect across the metro and beyond. The situation began last night at about 8:15 when troopers were following up on a previous investigation at a residence in the 6200 block of 30th Street South in Omaha. Troopers believe that a wanted subject identified as Jason Davenport was inside the residence. A female occupant of the residence, Dana Michelle Banks, confirmed that Davenport was inside. Davenport had an active arrest warrant from Pottawatomie County, Iowa, and was being sought for questioning regarding fleeing a traffic stop last week. For some time, Davenport refused to exit the home. Additional troopers and Omaha PD officers arrived at the scene to assist. At about 8:56 p.m., Davenport exited the rear of the residence and fired at least 2 shots from a handgun toward troopers. He then jumped a fence and ran toward an unoccupied NSP cruiser. Several troopers and an OPD officer fired their service weapons as Davenport attempted to take the cruiser. He was unable to steal the cruiser because of security measures within the vehicle. Troopers and officers then saw that Davenport was attempting to access the rifle that was locked inside the cruiser. Because of an anti-theft system in place for NSP rifles, he was unable to access this weapon. At about this time, a gray Ford Fusion drove up to the cruiser. Banks exited the vehicle and approached Davenport. Davenport then held Banks in front of him as he went to get into the Ford Fusion. Banks then walked around the vehicle and voluntarily entered the passenger side of the car, at which time Davenport fled, driving through Upland Park. As the vehicle drove through the park, troopers and officers attempted to pursue but lost visual. A large search was conducted with the assistance of OPD and NSP helicopters. After about 2 hours, it was determined that the suspect was no longer in the area, and an officer safety message was sent out to law enforcement in both Iowa and Nebraska. As the investigation continued overnight, law enforcement developed information that Davenport may be traveling in a different vehicle in Washington County. At about 3 a.m., the Washington County Sheriff's Office located a Kia Soul that was believed to be stolen. The deputy attempted a traffic stop, but the driver fled and a pursuit ensued. This vehicle was occupied by both Davenport and Banks, who were involved in the first incident. After a short pursuit, both subjects exited the vehicle and fled on foot, eventually hiding inside a semi-cab in a large shop building near Kennard in Washington County. Officers from numerous law enforcement partners arrived at the scene, including both the NSP SWAT team. Commands were given repeatedly throughout the standoff for both subjects to exit the vehicle. Troopers saw that Davenport was still in possession of the firearm. He refused many commands to discard the weapon and displayed it toward officers, prompting troopers to fire. Immediately after shots were fired, Banks exited the vehicle and surrendered to troopers. She was taken into custody and transported to UNMC with a gunshot wound. Her injuries are not considered life-threatening. While Davenport still refused to exit the vehicle, additional resources came to the scene. The Pottawatomie County Sheriff's Office bought a specific armored vehicle known as a Rook, which was used to gain access into the semi-cab just after 8 a.m. At this time, an NSP canine was deployed into the semi-cab. Davenport was then taken into custody. He was transported to UNMC also with non-life-threatening injuries. Charges are pending for both individuals in Douglas and Washington counties. The Nebraska State Patrol has asked the Omaha Police Department to investigate the first officer-involved shooting. The NSP Special Investigations Team will investigate the second officer-involved shooting. Thankfully, no officers were struck by gunfire during these incidents. All troopers who fired their weapons have been placed on leave in accordance with department policy. This is an ongoing investigation, and there are still a number of questions that the investigation will be able to answer, but at this time we believe that Banks was involved as a willing accomplice and was not a hostage. There are too many partners who helped in this case to thank them all, but a special thanks to the Omaha Police Department, Washington County Sheriff's Office, and the Pottawatomie County Sheriff's Office for their help during this chaotic situation. I'm thankful that the only injuries involved appear to be minor and that the public is safe at this time. I'd be happy to answer any questions there might be.
Do you know anything about his criminal history, or has he been in contact with law enforcement before?
We believe he has a criminal history. We believe that he's recently been released from incarceration, so he has had numerous law enforcement contacts.
On that initial warrant, can you touch on how many units were there? Who all was involved?
So in the initial incident, it was NSP and OPD, and there were several units from both agencies there.
Can you touch more on the Rook?
So my familiarization with the Rook was what I saw in some of the video this morning. It's like an armored Bobcat type vehicle with tracks, and it can be, they can attach several accoutrements to it that can grab and brake and do things like that in a safe manner.
Which canine?
I don't know that answer right now. Yeah, I'm sorry? NSP K9, yes.
Do you know the nature of the warrant or basic background of?
So I'm not sure what the initial warrant was. Our interest was that we believe this suspect had fled from us last week, and we wanted to talk to him about that. In following up on that background, we found that he had an active warrant, so that was the purpose for our visit there last night.
Go through the photos.
Yeah, we can look at the photos, and I see our partner agency, OPD, is here, and they can answer any questions if there are any pertinent to them. So this particular photo is taken from a dash cam from the cruiser that he attempted to steal. You can clearly see he has the handgun in his possession at this time. He, in this photo, clearly is raising the handgun and pointing it toward officers. Clearly that's a lethal force situation, very threatening situation for our folks. And this is the event where Banks pulled up and interjected herself back into the scene and was enabling him to get into her vehicle, which they fled in. And this shows that she was being used, it appears as though she was being used as a shield, and then after that she voluntarily got back into the car.
Is he a prohibited person?
Most likely. I haven't dug into his background, but since he's been incarcerated, most likely he's prohibited from possessing a firearm, yes.
Do you know how many officers and troopers total are on leave?
I believe we have 10, and I believe OPD has at least 1, and we're still trying to determine if there were any officers from other agencies who fired their weapons.
Will be charges out of multiple jurisdictions, or which county attorney?
Thanks for the question. So it appears that there are crimes committed in both counties, and that will be coordinated between the two county attorneys as to how that will get sorted out.
I think you mentioned that Banks had a gunshot wound, but was Davenport shot, or did he just have injuries from the incident?
We're not sure on that right now. I mean, he's being treated at the hospital, and we'll know that in the coming hours.
Was Banks involved prior to her car or vehicle entering that dash cam video?
Well, she is the person who answered the door when troopers first approached the residence and appeared to be cooperative in the beginning and tried to convince Davenport to come out of the house, and then things changed after that.
No, there's no such thing as a routine call, but did this seem to start off like a routine knock and talk?
Frankly, it did. We certainly weren't anticipating violence at this scene, but as you know, things can change rather quickly. When he became uncooperative and decided he didn't want to come out of the house, that of course raised our alertness level, but it was not expected that he'd come out of the house shooting. That's not an everyday occurrence.
10 troopers is a lot. Is that going to hinder your abilities as a department?
Well, we will, we'll have 10 folks on the bench, so to speak, for at least a few days, and we will muster other resources to try to fill in the gaps. And thankfully, we have partner agencies who will be able to help us out with any emergencies. Probably have time for one more.
At what time did this all officially wrap up when troopers were able to get out and go home?
So we actually have folks on scene still. There's a lot of evidence to collect and information to gather, folks to talk to. So our investigators are still on scene. OPD, I believe, is still on scene at the first location. But most of the folks who were involved in both incidents were in the process of getting them sent home at this time.
Real quick, is this Banks' residence? Is this her home?
We believe it is. We're still following up on that. Yeah. Okay, thanks again for coming, folks. Appreciate it.